Welcome back to Wired for Woo. My name is Deanna,
And I'm Angelique.
and we're two professional psychic mediums and dear friends who love to chat about all things life, love, woo woo, and everything in between. And boy, do we have a topic for you today. We know how wild this human ride can be, so we're here to share some of our own experiences, some insights, ponderings, and laughs to hopefully, help you feel connected and supported as you walk your own unique path.
And thank you so much for tuning in. If you enjoy Wired for Woo, we deeply appreciate it if you could like and subscribe to our podcast. Your support helps us continue to share our stories, insights, and all the magic along the way. We are so grateful to have you with us today on this journey.
Woo woo.
Woo woo.
And what a ride we're taking
Oh my
today
gosh, I think this is kind of crazy.
into the stars.
Into the stars. Beam me up,
Q,
baby. Beam me up.
yeah, Q ET, Q Star Trek, Q Star Wars, Q your favorite sci-fi spacey thing. We're talking
I know.
UFOs.
ETs, paranormal, all that jazzy jazz stuff.
Yeah. Yeah. It was funny today. One of my friends was asking, he was like, "Oh, are you guys going to podcast soon?" I was like, "Actually, we're podcasting tonight." He was like, "Oh, what's the topic?" And I was like, "You're not even ready. You're not even ready." His UFOs and his eyes got really wide, and he was like, "Really?" So I think this is going to be a really fun one. Not only because I know Angelique specifically has a lot of really cool stories around this,
Just a few.
but also this has been a rabbit hole I've like gone down. I don't want to say a rabbit hole. This is just an extreme area of curiosity and research that I've done myself too, because it's just fascinating. So um, I'm really excited for this topic.
Yeah, I don't think you could be a psychic medium or anyone who's awakened or has that. I liked your down the rabbit hole analogy because I think it is very Alice in Wonderland, you
Can
know?
be. Yeah, it can be.
And I feel like anyone who's open to pretty much anything's possible.
Hmm.
um, I, I want to say fits in the bucket of, the paranormal or, the extraterrestrials or higher level beings or,
Hmm.
D all of the above.
Yeah, I think I didn't want to say rabbit hole because there's something in that that makes me go like, oh, it's taking you somewhere that's just totally out of base with reality. And that's why I love looking into this. We'll call it a phenomena, but I don't even think it's a
Yeah.
phenomena. At this point, the government has even said, yeah, like, oh, yeah, no, it's absolutely happening and real. And we've had, several instances where there are UFOs within, and I think they know a hell of a lot more. We're not even going to get into that conspiracy theory, but I think rabbit hole implies that there's something like unrealistic about it when this is a noted reality and we're all just like kind of making sense of it now, I guess. Which is one of the
Yeah.
reasons I love to like look into it more because I think there's so much to be understood about it.
Oh my gosh, for sure. And you were telling me earlier that you just had an experience, correct? Like at work, or
Yeah.
like something kind of got downloaded, or do you want to share that with us? I thought that was like
Yeah.
really cool.
Yeah. Pre us getting on the podcast, I was like, I have no experiences with this. And Angelique's like, you have a couple. I think
I
you
think you
have some.
do.
Um,
I think you
um,
do.
yeah. So I mean, a friend of mine at work, we always talk about UFOs. And like it's funny, we were even started like kind of not wanting to call them UFOs because we're like the way I view them is like I think they're actually like just another species within our galaxy rather than like UFO almost sounds like separate. And I actually think they're so much more a part of our I'll just want to say origin than we believe them or that's it can be challenging to wrap our mind around, I guess. Um, so I started calling them like non-earthbound beings to like have more respect, I guess. But we were talking about I don't even remember how we got onto this. Well, all I know is that we were talking about breast milk and then we were talking about time travel. And so,
That's an
um
odd combo.
but yeah, it was, but actually it was completely in alignment. We were talking, oh my God, I don't even know where to start with this story. Guess I just have to start with the UFO part because if we go into breast milk, I will not shut up because I've learned so much and it's so fascinating and it's amazing. But um sorry, I'm like
That's another day.
that's another day. That's a literal titty bit. We can
That's so
we
true.
can go into that another time. But we were talking, I don't remember how we got onto it, but I was standing there and all of a sudden I was like shown like images and a feeling of how what I think was a download from what I think most of us would refer to as an ET or someone who is not bound to physical earth reality, right? And I don't mean a spirit because I think it's more like extraterrestrial. Um, where I was like kind of being, I was basically downloaded the concept of time travel through space-time fabric and how all of that exists all at the same time. So it's kind of like if you can, like every point, oh my God, this is gonna get, all right. We're just disclaimering this, but there's zero known science here, but I just feel in my gut there was truth here. So we're running with it, but like take it for a
These
grain of
are,
salt, everybody.
yeah, these are
These
our
are our own
experiences.
assertions and our own feelings about things. Like it's so funny. I can literally tell that I'm about to become that kooky person at Thanksgiving, like, as if I wasn't enough of that already. But like basically they were kind of like I felt like they downloaded how every single particle of the collective, like everything that exists is part of that collective conscious fiber, right? And so it's kind of like every point on that has a very specific vibrational frequency that if you attune to it, you resonate with it and are able to essentially travel to it. So if you wanted to travel to like Portugal 1786 on September 3rd at 12 a.m. outside of a specific landmark, it would be about attuning to the frequency vibration of that particle in that place at that time and attuning to the frequency of that. Therefore, you would open up a portal for time travel. But that's why it all exists now. It's just about attuning to the frequency of that exact pinpoint in space time. Did I lose
No,
you?
no, you didn't lose
I
me.
didn't think
No,
I did. I would.
no, no, I get it. I mean, it's like I feel like we could probably talk timelines all day long, especially as
Yeah.
psychic mediums, because we work in timelines. And I think that's something that always comes up, and that's like really interesting because when I have been shown timelines, and it's so interesting, how you're shown, and I think it's more everybody has the way that they view their symbology, I guess you could say,
Hmm.
of from spirit or ETs or higher entities. And I remember similar where like I felt like I was standing in the middle of like a record album almost with all of the grooves in a record album. And
Uh-huh.
that's how I was shown time, that everything is almost circular,
Yeah.
and that all of the points are actually past, present, future, all were within view
Right.
of one
Exactly.
another. And so, even if, and this is one of those things where, when you're into manifestation or you're like wondering why these aren't things aren't coming up, it's like, those dots on the map and their future or whatever, or past or whatever, it's, when you're wanting to bring that into your current reality,
Yeah.
it's one of those things where, like, if you literally can see it, it's like there, you just haven't caught up to that energetic, like, like you haven't aligned to it, or like
Yeah.
but it's just really interesting. It's like, oh, I can kind of see it over there, but it's there and it's present. But it's the same as past. It's like all on the same. Yeah.
Field. It's all in
It's
the
kind of
same
crazy.
field. It's like it's all on the
Yeah.
same sheet of paper. Is kind of how they were like it's all existing. But I think it's interesting because this is, I think, an interesting point. So when I got that download, what I want to say is I was mid talking about specifically and focused in on, we'll call it ET energies.
Hmm.
So that's why I would say
Yeah.
that's what this felt like it came from, was like we were talking about them and how they would move through like I don't believe that they're bound to being physical beings. I think that they've evolved consciously to be able to like what I would say is phase in and out of different densities of consciousness. So they don't have to necessarily, like, we're literally in 3D most of the time. So it's like 3D to 5D is what a lot of people will say we live in for the most part. I think they're
Hmm.
like beyond where they can phase in and out of what I would say is the current densities we perceive and that we're able
Hmm.
to like understand. And I always say like I equate it to like the color spectrum. Like we see like a color spectrum that's like, this long, and but like for them it's like okay, there are infinite color points within that color spectrum and even colors we can't see yet. So it's like they have the operation of being able to go through all of those where we're like, we are maybe working through like the difference between like violet and magenta, but they're like, oh my God, there's infinite colors between violet and magenta that you just can't perceive yet. And they have the ability to like, that's how I would equate like maybe phasing in and out of physical reality. So in that way, when I was getting the download, I was kind of coming through the exact same channel that I would say spirit guides and passed on loved ones and other non-physical beings come through for me. Would you say the same? Like it's they're talking in the same spaces.
Yeah, telepathically for sure, right? Is that what you
What
mean?
do you mean telepathically? So like for me, it's
Like,
like
like,
I got
well,
it
mine's,
clairvoyantly, the same way
yeah,
I do when a spirit wants to show me something clairvoyantly. And I got a feeling and like a what I would say is a claircognizant download about a concept the same way I would in a reading.
yeah. And I'm wondering, this is where it's like we are receiving information. It's, it's, it's like, yes, it's, um, uh, whether it's clairvoyantly or oh my gosh, what is when you hear,
Clairaudient.
clairaudient? Oh my God. It's the end of the day, people. So clairaudient, like I'm wondering if in some way they are communicating with us telepathically, but is it the same or is it clairaudient? We're receiving clairaudiently, but they are communicating with us telepathically. Does that make sense?
I
Or is it one and the same? It's really kind of one and the same.
That's where I'm kind of like, I mean, I guess again, it depends on how you're framing it is like, are they physical somewhere else or are in like communicating across a distance, or do they have the ability to tap into that conscious fiber, that same we'll call it the web of interconnected consciousness.
I think both.
And because that's where I think spirits talk is in that interconnected web of consciousness that we're all part of. I think they come into that layer. And then so I would think, I don't know, I guess for me, I've never experienced telepathic communication though, in the way where it's like someone else is talking that I don't know, maybe it's the same, I'm not sure because it to me it felt the same as it was using the exact same channels and feelings that I've experienced in readings,
Which is so
spirits.
interesting because when I think about channelers like Daryl, who channels Bashar,
Yeah,
right? He talks about
one of my
how
favorites. Oh my
I
God,
know, I just
I
adore
adore
and
him.
love, love, love. The interesting thing is like when I've heard him speak in interviews, he speaks in terms of telepathically. It's compute, even though like I feel like it's he's I want to say taking over his physical form to communicate through his vocal cords. I My understanding is he said that like he's not even in the same dimension, like he's in another dimension communicating through him, so that's where it's like, oh my gosh, that's like really crazy to me.
Yeah,
That's where like they're all when you're talking about timelines and stuff, I think that's really I mean, that's
yeah,
what I understand or from what I remember hearing in an interview
yeah.
that he's from like another dimension channeling through like he's not even here. So
Right.
that's like, I think that's something it's like, and I want to say any listeners who want to put in the comment section of the difference between telepathic and, clairaudient, I think that's a really interesting topic
Yeah, for sure.
for sure. But
Yeah.
I have had a true telepathic experience though, where I've had
Well, then
an
you
ex-
would know if there's what the difference between telepathy and clairaudience is.
it feels the same.
Okay.
It feels the same. I mean,
Maybe
it's different
energetically the feeling's a little different.
because like there was a physical form,
Right.
in my presence, which I'd love to share with
Yeah, share the
listeners.
story.
Do you want me to share it now?
Yeah,
Do you want to? Do you all want to
you've
know?
already
So I've already
teased
opened.
it.
I've
I feel like
already
you
teased
have
it.
to now.
So my daughter and I think this was, I'm going to say like 2018, maybe, where we took a little mini holiday vacation to Amelia Island at a hotel on the beach. And her and I had gone out to dinner and we came back to the hotel and we had this like really nice room on an ocean. It was like overseeing the ocean. And it was beautiful because it was December in Florida, so it wasn't that bad. And I'm really big advocate of like having this screen door, like so you can hear the ocean and feel the breeze. And that night, for some reason, and my daughter is the same way. Like we love hearing the ocean and feeling it and all of that. And there was just something about that night. She was so insistent on closing the door, which I was so mad at her for closing the sliding glass door because we had like a little patio. Closing the sliding glass door and making it so dark in that room, like you couldn't even see your own hand in front of your face. And she was just exhausted and she passed out early. And then I was just watching television and I fell asleep watching television. Now, I don't know, it was like, of course, 3 a.m., the witching hour. Half in and out of consciousness. That's the best way I can describe it. I There were three light beings that were on the left side of my bed in the hotel room. These were like two, I want to say double beds in the hotel room. So they were in between where me and Katie would be. I saw three light beings, and the best way I could describe these light beings were they were just figures. I didn't really see, I want to say features
Hmm.
more than anything, other than they were just tall. They were just pure light, like just like light, but they had the shape of what I would call an oblonged human,
Hmm.
but just were light. And they were saying, I want to say a few years ago, this is where I wish I kind of journaled
Hmm.
more, but they kept talking to me about the children of the stars and like kind of like their mission. And there's all this stuff about their purpose on earth or whatever, children of the stars. And they were holding this ball of light in their hands and they started to put it in the center of my chest. And halfway through, I like kind of came back into consciousness and looked over and was like, what was that? Like I kind of snapped out of it.
Yeah.
And then I noticed that the curtains were open and the screen was open to, and now my daughter is a teenager. She sleeps like through anything.
Yeah.
So, and I didn't hear her get up or anything or go outside. That would be pretty loud hearing her do the sliding doors. All of a sudden, I hear like someone is sitting, talk clairaudiently,
Uh-huh.
but almost like someone is sitting next to me. Don't be afraid. You're going to see a shadow. Like I'm talking as clear as day, like someone is sitting next to me. Now I'm fixated on that sliding glass door, waiting for someone like to see a shadow. And I saw a freaking shadow. And I was like, oh my God. And I'm like, Katie, please tell me it's Katie. Because I literally could not see my hands. It was so dark in that room. It was so pitch black. And she was out, it was her. She comes in, she starts crying. She starts telling me about these three beams of light over the ocean. And I said, what were you doing outside? And she's like, I couldn't move from the chair. I was frozen. But there were these three beams of light. They were stars were so close. She kept talking about the stars. She's like, Mom, the stars were so close. They were so close. They were like right in my face, but I don't know what I was doing out there. I couldn't move. I just felt very frozen in time. Now, anyone who's ever had like an alien encounter can just, I've heard that they've described that
A
very
similar
exact
experience.
experience of feeling very frozen, couldn't move. And she came in and she said, I heard someone say to me, it's okay for you to go inside now.
That's so crazy.
And then she came in and then she's so funny because I was so excited. I was like, oh my God, I had an alien experience. This was like the coolest thing ever. I'm like, what was that beam of light they put, that ball of light they put in my chest? Like I was all excited about that. And Kate's like, I am never coming back here again. Ask Katie to go to Amelia Island and she will say, hell's no.
Hells no.
Hells no. And, and then the interesting thing connected to that, I never understood. Like, I even like talked to, my spiritual coach and everything about the experience. And I was like, I don't know what the ball of light is. And, like, what is that? Like, I don't understand. And then literally a year and a half later, I'm meditating at home. And this is when I started having, and I think I shared with you, I started having astral projection experiences.
Uh-huh.
Well, I was sitting in meditation and all of a sudden I felt myself astral project to somewhere in the mountains in front of like a tunnel in a mountain, and there was a whole group of people like standing outside this tunnel almost waiting to go through, which is like really interesting because I'm like, are they looking to get to the other side? Like, you know what I mean? Are
Yeah.
they just like, is it a portal? Like, I didn't know what it was. But the interesting thing was, I heard, throw them the light. And so
Huh.
in my astral projection, I remember grabbing that ball of light and throwing it at all of those people. And then I was forced back into my body, almost knocked me over. I was jolted back into my physical body at that point. And I was like, what the hell? That was the craziest thing. So I feel like I definitely feel that those two experiences were connected. I feel like in
Mm.
some way I was a messenger to help
Mm-hmm.
a group of people either cross over or get somewhere. You know
Yeah.
what I mean?
Yeah.
So, and that's why like I feel like it's like when they were talking about Children of the Stars, I'm like, oh, then I'm wondering if am I a star seed, which is a whole other conversation
Yeah.
for another day.
For those who don't know, star seeds is just the concept that some people are incarnate alien, like what you would call an ET, someone who's lived ET lifetimes, who's incarnated on Earth for this or a number of lifetimes to assist humanity in its evolution towards where these other ET societies have supposedly already evolved to. But because they've been there, they volunteered to be people who, to be beings who incarnate as people to help bring the wisdom, the love, the awakening
Yeah.
to the planet when it's needed. So that's the whole concept of star seeds for those who, because I actually do feel like you can't talk about this without, from a spiritual lens, without talking about that concept to some degree.
No, it's very, very true.
Yeah.
So I feel like those two experiences were definitely connected and had purpose there. And
Hmm.
that was just mind blowing. And that
Yeah, that's crazy.
experience opened up so many funky ass meditations, of just sitting in that different level of consciousness and opening up and seeing like lizard people like pop in. Like I would be in meditation and all of a sudden I'd see like this black screen in front of me and a little window would open and like a lizard,
A
like
reptilian.
a reptilian would like show its face and then close like almost like in space, like would close like the window and just almost like took a peek. It was
So interesting.
crazy. It's so crazy, some of the experiences I've had in meditation with
Yeah.
things like that.
That's
Yeah.
wild. I'll never forget the first time you told me that beach story. It was like, hey, I just have ever since been like, please come visit me. Like, please,
I
I
know.
want a like waking you like ET experience so badly. But I'm sure
Yeah.
there's a reason that it's not, not happening. If according to
Well,
Bashar, we're all going to have open global contact in
I know.
2027, which I'm very excited about.
I know. I'm
Um,
very excited about that too. But
and
I
I'm
also
excited
feel
for
like
them
they
to have their own
know.
voices.
I mean, do you believe that there's a reason why we have interest in it? Because, I've heard that too. Like anyone who shows interest in extraterrestrials, higher levels of consciousness, or high vibrational beings, that type of thing.
Hmm.
There's a deeper soul connection.
Connection. I mean, I feel that for me for sure. It's funny when you were talking about your experience and they were talking about the children of the stars. The first thing that came up for me, I'll never forget reading. There's a book called Bringers of the Dawn by, I think it's Barbara Mackinac or something like that. But it's basically a channeled book from the Pleiadian, which is a species of ET. Like there's a whole bunch of species out there. If for anyone who's like listening and isn't familiar with this, you have like I mean, obviously there's going to be like infinite species, right? Because we're in an infinite fucking galaxy. But some of the most common ones I think you hear are the Pleiadians, the Arcturians, the reptilians. I've heard the mantis people a lot, the Greys, the Syrians, the like there's these commonly talked about species that people have said they've channeled, interacted with, and that are what I want to say is actively involved in the evolution of humanity. Um, but this one is channeled by the Pleiadians, which is the one that I've always been the most like curious about. But it's literally talking about how some of us have incarnated even for a very long time. And I don't, this was where I go, like, I don't know that we're separate. Like, I wouldn't say ETs are separate from us. I think we're just infinite souls that have, it can take on whatever form our soul really feels is where we're aiming to be or the experience we want, I guess, to include like I've even heard like some people like in this book they talk about like alien like if you're an ET like pausing your life essentially in that dimension and coming and incarnating for several lifetimes and then returning to your ET life where you left off. But it's like your soul kind of puts that life on pause, takes a hiatus to do this, and then goes back to it, which I thought was a really interesting concept. Very Rick and
That's kind of
Morty.
badass.
Very Rick and Morty. If anyone's ever seen what was the game? Roy or something that he plays, where he lives a whole life. um but in the Bringers of the Dawn, they talk about like there's a like Pleiadians are supposedly like have to do with the like through love, through compassion, through cooperative thinking, and through well, I don't want to say rebellion, like in a like, but there is like a warrior rebellion aspect to them, but it's more like you're a system breaker is how they call it.
Mhm.
Like you're here to break systems. So when they were putting the light in your chest and like kept talking about the children of stars, it's funny is when you were talking about it here, the first thing I thought was like, oh, they were reminding you. Like it was like they were almost like reminding you who you were, or reminding you a part of you why you were here, or reminding you of that connection in some way, and like instilling that light language and healing or something like into
It
your
was pretty
chest.
badass.
It's really fucking cool. But like that book was the thing that when I read it, I was like so much in me and what they talk about the internal experience of those who have some connection to the Pleiades. Like I was like, I literally felt like I was reading the book and reading the story of my life.
Yeah.
So I was like, what the like, and that's where I got really like into it. And I love it because like I won't get too into detail, but one of my favorite things that's come from that book specifically was it totally reframed the way I see Earth and its purpose and what it's actually meant to be and what human beings are meant to be within the greater system of the whole. And that we're actually viewed with reverence by these ETs, not like they don't look down on us as lesser. They actually like love us and like just want us
Yeah.
to evolve because we have like they've been here, done this. Their societies had to go through the same thing, and they like are actually wanting like they want us to evolve into a more harmonious. And I think in that book they talk about Earth is actually meant to be a living library of all of the life within our galaxy. So
Oh, I
basic,
love
so
that.
and
Yeah.
that's why we have such a diverse group of species on our planet, both plant and insect and mammal and reptile, and like these are all pieces of life and DNA from all over the galaxy, which is why it's so diverse, and that humans are supposed to be the basically the librarians that take care of that diversity of life and who like are able to tap into basically the grid of the planet that holds all of the knowledge that's been downloaded into the grid of the planet, which I just think is the most, just the coolest.
It's
Real,
just you
something
talk
in
about
me
going down a rabbit
resonates.
hole.
Well, something in me resonates in
Yeah.
truth with that idea. I'm like,
Oh my
everything in me
gosh,
feels like
without
that's
short.
a fuck yes. And but even if like you don't buy into it, like what a beautiful concept. So anyways, I don't want to get too off board, but like I feel like that really encompasses like I guess the way I kind of view their relationship to us.
Yeah.
Um,
I have a really funny question for you.
okay.
And we didn't talk about this, so but this is
Okay. Ask
okay.
it.
So, have you ever encountered another human being around you that you're like, they are not from this planet?
Absolutely. Absolutely. I work at a spiritual
You know what I
metaphysical store.
mean?
I would say once a week, I'm like, you don't live here.
And it's like I almost wonder because, and I think about, there's a woman that I worked with years ago. And,
Hmm.
I used to love like talking to her because she had crystals on her desk. And I was like, oh my gosh, I can bond with her. I can be open and tell her because I worked in corporate. So it was like, I didn't tell a
Hmm.
lot of people that I was a psychic medium or anything like that. But like if someone had crystals or whatever, I was like, oh, I can open up that door.
Yeah, you're
And
cool.
so, and as soon as I started talking to her, I was like, you are not from here, girl. Like, where are you from? And so, like, I approached her and I said, has anyone, like, have you ever felt like, or no, that's how I phrased it. Have you ever felt like you're just not from here? And she's like, oh, I'm not. She,
She just knew.
she came flat out and told me, she's like, I am not from here.
Mm-mm.
I mean, I don't think any of our souls are really from here, but
Really from
you know
here
what I
now.
mean? But like there was just something very
Yeah.
peculiar about her personality. It felt very Men in Black. Like I was just
Yes.
waiting for her to unzip the human suit and this strange creature with like little arms was gonna step out,
I always
you
think the
know?
people that have that kind of energy, it's like they just haven't done this very many times. Like what I've always said, like while
Yeah.
I resonate with that Pleiadian thing, I also have always felt, no matter how challenging it is, there are some people that say, like, I'm so uncomfortable in this human experience. Like nothing makes sense. I don't get this world. Nothing resonates. I feel weird in my body. Like they like hate everything about this existence because it's all uncomfortable and feels so like, what the fuck is going on? Like I'm
Yeah.
very comfortable with the human experience. Like, I don't know, some like I'm not saying it all makes sense, but it's like I don't know. There's not a resist. I'm like, oh yeah, like, it feels very familiar to me. Versus when I see people that like you can tell they're just like again, you're
Yeah.
like you're not. I always think like, oh, they're. I don't know. In my mind, I go like, oh, like this might be their first few times in this form. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Where they're adjusting or like kind of figuring it out. Not to say that your energy can't be peculiar either way, but
No, but there's some people that I mean, I think too intuitively,
yeah,
as someone who's an empath and can just feel people's energy, there's definitely people who I have felt, I want to say empathically, where I can feel high vibe people,
hmm,
or I can also feel energies like, wow, your energy is like very dense,
yes,
or also, just you're not from here. You're just
yes,
I don't know what solar system you're from, but I
yeah,
don't recognize it. It's like one of those things where it's unfamiliar almost. So
yes.
like if I can say, oh, maybe I'm an ET, I think we probably all are at some capacity as we were talking about souls, infinite
Yeah,
souls, but
that's what I
but
think.
yeah, but I mean, there's that unfamiliarity, like almost like personality isn't clicking with people. But when you start feeling people on an energetic level, it's like, ooh, yeah, there's something really
There's
different
something
there.
different. Yeah,
Something
exactly. It's like
really different there.
it's kind of that what is that? I don't know what it's called, like where something is like everything looks right, but something just kind of feels different and you're like, I can't put my finger on
Yeah.
it. That's usually yeah. But usually very
Yeah.
interesting people. Very interesting people and they have very different ideas about what about life in general, which I think is usually really interesting to ask them about.
It is really interesting for sure. Oh my
Hmm.
gosh.
Yeah,
Uh,
absolutely.
so you haven't had any, I mean, it's like there's so many like unexplainable things that I could probably talk about, but I love that you and I were kind of talking. I'm just going to switch gears a little bit because I think when you and I were talking offline, we were talking a little bit about Dolores Cannon.
Hmm.
Like, and so when you were talking earlier, that kind of sparked things for me about, people that I remember her saying how some of the people who I think I forget the name of her book. There's something Earth, the New Earth,
Oh, the
or
newer, like the three waves or something like
yeah,
that,
it's like the
or
three waves of people that are
hmm,
here to
Yeah.
elevate the consciousness on the
Yeah.
planet.
Incoming
But
souls, and they're called
yeah,
for
the
future, the
volunteers. Thank
volunteers.
you.
That's what she calls them.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes, yes, yes. So I love when there was I was listening to an interview. It was just the other day too, and she was talking about how the people who are meant to be out in public, the ones that are just high vibrational beings, that their energy is just meant to resonate amongst the crowds, are the people that just hate people the most. Have you heard her talk about that? There's some people that's like, I just don't want to, like you were saying, how like I just don't want to be here.
Yeah.
There's some people who just really just don't want to be here, or just feel so disconnected, or like I want to go home, or just they just don't feel like I don't really resonate with the human experience. So they end up
Yeah.
hermiting a lot. I mean,
Oh,
I can reference the hermiting thing to some
yeah.
capacity as an empath,
Yeah.
but there are some people who I know, even in some readings that I've done, I was like, "Oh, you're a light bringer. Like your only purpose is literally to walk into a room and just bring joy." You know,
Hmm.
like you're meant to just raise the vibration of the room just by
Hmm.
being you. Like you don't have to do anything. You just have to be present.
Yeah.
And so like I feel like there are, I mean, I'm probably going off topic with the ETs,
No, not at all. This is all under,
but
it's like that she's channeling
oh,
them
on the
too.
other brother.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
I'm kind of obsessed with her. I have all of her books,
Yeah.
but I thought that was really interesting, where
Yeah.
some people have come here, and and I know you've had a dream, which I
Hmm.
would love for you to talk about, because I thought that was a really interesting dream, because I had a similar vision in a meditation where I saw like a floating door, and it was like in the middle of a field in a forest, and I just saw like beings coming out, honestly, like a portal opened,
Yeah.
and then just flowed, like a crowd like came out and just scattered.
Interesting.
Yeah. And that was just like a nanosecond, split second. And I know you had like a really interesting dream once about some form of transportation or something.
Yeah.
You have to tell me. I forget the details, but
Yeah. So it's funny. I've had like several
yeah, a
ET
couple.
related
Yeah.
dreams, but they always have to do, which I want to say before I say this, I don't think it's a literal end of the world. I think it is a figurative death of an old consciousness and death of a way of doing things and of the way we relate to. I think it's the death of an era within humanity. But it's always apocalyptic. Like I have apocalypse dreams like nobody's business. Like things are always in chaos, on fire, imploding, something. And especially with when I have alien dreams, that's usually the theme. But it's funny because I'm always in my dreams with them, I'm always helping. I'm part of the like them assisting throughout that process. I'm never like in panic. I'm always really chill about it. But in this dream, so I was in an airport, and the UFOs had basically, they were sitting at the ticketing desks where they normally check you in at the gate. Like they were sitting at those desks by the gate, and they had lined up their spacecraft to work with our airport. So like you would walk down that same walkway that you would walk on to get on the plane, like there at the end was just their spacecraft. So they'd used our existing structures to help us evacuate the planet. And it was crazy because I remember sitting in the seats at the gate, like just waiting to be called or waiting for my time to board, and looking around, and there you could hear like people losing their minds down the hall. Like there was someone getting arrested because they just had like the stress of like the planet ending had like just made them super chaotic. It was literally like, like the background of a zombie movie of like War of the Worlds, where people are just running and screaming, and now people are like crashing windows and like looting, and it's just like pure anarchy, chaos because people are just afraid. It was
Yeah.
that in the background. And then I was sitting at the gate with other people who were all very scared and nervous, but I was just waiting. And then the ET that was sitting, and they were like blue. They were really tall, very humanoid, but kind of blue, but they were like clearly bigger. And like it was a female voice at least, but she called me by name. It was like, Deanna, come up. And so I walked up to the counter at the gate, and she said, "Okay, it's your time to board." So I took the ticket from her and I walked up the runway in onto the spacecraft. And as I was walking onto the spacecraft, I went to sit in the back, and it was weird because like under there were some seats, but there was like like under some I don't know if anyone would know this, it's I think more common on military aircraft, but like under the seats there's like almost like a bungee cord net that can hold stuff.
Hmm.
It was like that under all of the seats. So they weren't sitting on the seats, but then like my family, who I no longer have connection with because, for, just sanity and personal mental health reasons, they were like scrunched into that net under the seats. And so they were all cramped and uncomfortable and like all in there. And I like looked at them, and then another ET came up to me and was like, "Hey, oh, you're actually up by the pilot." And so then they took me into the cockpit, and there were four seats in the cockpit, and I was seated in the cockpit of it rather than in the back, uncomfortable where my family was. And that's where that dream ended. But I just thought like it's one of the most vivid dreams I've ever had, and it was very, to me, I kind of took that as more of like again, I've always been of the I guess belief that the UFOs are helping with the ascension of humanity.
Yeah.
And so I just kind of took that dream as like, this is gonna maybe sound a little egoic, but like that some people are gonna have a more uncomfortable experience. And what I want to say is my association with those family members are that they are unwilling to do their work and unwilling to, evolve in their conscious in a certain consciousness, versus like the way I saw is like being put up in the cockpit might be like there's a sense of leadership of like this is how we're going to do this.
Yeah.
But there was a kindness with the aliens, and the whole time I felt very calm, but everyone around me was panicking. And I think anyone who's what I'm gonna say is awakened kind of resonates with everybody's screaming the world is burning, and some of us can feel like it's all part of the process. And I'm not saying everything is hunky-dory and that there's no problems, but I'm getting on a tangent now. But I don't know, I saw it as more a symbolic like of I guess the role that maybe I'd like to play, or that I'm being assisted through that connection to play
Well,
during
I
this time.
often, it's funny because, when you're talking about the chaos in the background, I can only imagine, when you talk about Bashar's predictions in the next 2 years of having a full blown,
Global contact.
global contact with ETs, how's the world going to go react, especially the people who are not, I want to say open to that, or who have always had the belief of, I don't believe it.
Hmm.
You know,
It will be a very uncomfortable transition.
it's going to be really hard. I think it's
Yeah.
even going to be difficult for those who are open to it because, there's going to be, I can imagine, this isn't me like foretelling or anything like that, but I could imagine the chaos that's going to ensue.
Hmm.
And I think I would think of a higher intelligence. They'll be, I hope, strategic in their planning
Well,
of how they do it.
I think
You
they're
know,
strategic in the way that they have not done that. They haven't already introduced themselves. Like whenever people are afraid of them, I'm like, you realize they are like billions of years more evolved than us, and they could have fucked us up every which way if they really wanted to by now. They're staying, I think they're staying away for benevolent reasons because they're trying to be kind in the way that they come in. Like I think they won't do it before we're ready to receive it. And I also don't think they're going to just be like, "Hey, howdy, here's the you deal with all the fallout, bye." Like I think it's relationship building from there. Because I know
yeah,
Bashar had said when they introduced themselves in 2027 that at that time we'll receive the way he put it was a hologram of the truth of our history. So I have a feeling that even the origins of our history and the way that human beings have come about is going to also like even people who are attuned and like okay with all of this, there's still going to be a reorienting of the paradigm of what's true,
yeah.
you know, which I'm thrilled about. And I do think all of our brains are going to go for a little loop-de-loop,
Oh my gosh, yeah. I mean,
you
I
know.
I started listening to, and I don't know a lot about it, but and that's why I think everyone is so fascinated by Egypt. but
Mhm.
I believe that they were, I feel like,
They
I
knew
want to
shit.
say, I feel like there's like a group of beings called the Anunnaki. I don't,
Hmm.
you know what I mean? That
Yep.
I want to say, created the human race,
Hmm.
which, would have my Christian parents,
Clutching pearls.
clutching pearls as
Yeah.
I'm saying that, the whole Adam and Eve aspect.
Hmm.
Um, but there's just so much. I mean, and I mean, it's all like until I don't know, maybe there's a different level of awareness that comes through. I mean, a lot of theories and speculation, but I can't not believe that there isn't something more, especially as a psychic medium.
Mm-mm.
But also having had the experiences that I had, like I just, I feel like for me, it just opens my curiosity even more,
Hmm.
to know all the secrets of the universe,
Yeah.
But do you think, I mean, we're talking about like all these very peaceful and loving, but I know from my understanding with every light, there's dark.
Hmm.
Like, so I can't imagine there not being like ETs that are also, I want to say, on the lower vibrational level. I mean, I've heard that about the reptilians, correct? Have you?
I
Or
have.
some, not all. I don't want to say
Yeah.
all, but I've heard that there are it's kind of like humans. There's good and
Right.
I don't even want to say bad, but I
Yeah.
feel like even the ones that are, I want to say, troublesome,
Troublesome.
have their purpose.
Yeah.
But
So like that's one of the reasons I love The Bringers of the Dawn is because they do talk about this in that book, and I kind of loved this framework because it goes along with like the way I don't think anything is inherently good or bad. I think there's just different varied experiences of vibration and of consciousness. Um and in that there's a reason. It's funny, I was just talking about this in my tarot class yesterday. Like we got the devil card and I was explaining like the devil's not always bad. Like there's a time and a place, right? And like there
yeah,
it's just there's and when you understand why someone did something bad, it changes the way you view the act itself because there's always a reason. Do you know what I mean?
yeah,
Um, or a spark or something. But they talk about reptilians in the way of like that they have evolved like their food essentially like the energy that sustains them is the vibration of fear is how they put it. So in order to what I want to say is sustain themselves, like it's not seen as like we're gonna like fuck with these humans and we're gonna ruin their lives and blah, blah, blah. Do you know what I mean? It's not malicious in that way. It's just
I
like
love that you had to change your voice for
well,
that.
obviously. And I'm sorry if there's reptilians listening and that was offensive. Like I just, we don't know yet. When you say hi, then I'll impersonate you better. But
Yeah,
like that it's more like just like every other being, like they're sustained by certain things and they do what they need to meet their needs. But it's less like what I want to say is one of the reasons I really love that book is because at no point did I feel like what I want to say is that the evolution of humanity was beyond our own hands, like that it
yeah,
was beyond our choices and our because again like fear is always available to us. So the way it was kind of put is like the reptilians are here and feeding on your fear because you're willing to go there, because you're
yeah,
willing to give it to them, because you're willing to create an abundance of it, right? But like, and as we know, like we can't always stay out of fear. It's not about never being in fear, but like how much that fear runs our choices and rules our lives and how much power and focus we give it is something that's in our control.
yeah.
So so that's kind of more how they put it is like it's kind of like, well, if you don't want maggots, don't make dead corpses. Or I don't, that was a horrible example, but very morbid. But like it's kind of
No, I
like,
get what you're
you
saying.
know what I mean? If you don't want flies, don't leave rotting fruit out.
Yeah,
Kind of more of that. And it's like you don't blame the fruit flies for the fact that you put rotted fruit out. It's kind of more the other way around, which they're not necessarily saying it's all great. They're definitely talking about like it's not serving you for this, and like that there is some, what I would say is influence, but just in the same way that we have discernment with influences in our lives, they kind of talk about that with reptilians as well, which
that's
I
very
kind
cool.
of loved that perspective because it also jives with what I believe is kind of like what I'm going to say is universal truths.
Yeah.
in what I feel to be true. What about you? What do you make of it?
I mean, I just think with every light there, like I said earlier, like I think with every light there is some form of darkness. And I feel like you have to have the yin and the yang. You have to have create the balance.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, so many times I've heard spiritual leaders say, I mean, this is just different reference point, but you can't if you just had light all the time, there would be you would have no reference point of really what the beauty and the grace of I want to say joy and happiness and love would be if you didn't know anything else,
Yeah.
or empathy or or things that would um when things happen that are not always the most pleasant, you do have an appreciation for the
Yeah.
things that are that do bring joy and happiness and love. So, I mean, I feel like I've some mild experiences with that, in meditation of like, oh, I'm not interested in inviting that energy in.
Mm-hmm.
Whatever it was, whether it was spirit energy or ET energy or but yeah, I do believe it exists. I can't imagine it not to be.
No, I think that's just the nature of the
Yeah.
universe itself. But I would also
But
say
what,
like there's like a pair like when I think of when I would say it's similar to entities where I
yeah,
actually don't believe in negative attachment entities as being just like a bad thing because I think they can only attach to us if there's something in us that's resonating with them. So it's actually like that energy exacerbating certain qualities within us is actually showing us a piece of ourselves that might have been harder to see or to
yeah,
understand or to access. Like we don't want to stay that way, but like it's almost like that what we might call a negative energy comes
yeah.
in to show us where healing still is needed. So in a way it's like let me point this out to you out of love even though the effect may not feel like love. Like it's this very weird. So I guess I'm going to say like I think it's the same thing.
I feel like there's a lot of protection. I want to say for especially for the planet Earth, I feel like there's an intention to protect the planet.
Mm,
That's the vibe that I'm getting or feeling
yeah.
is, especially against, weaponry and things like that, of mass destruction.
Yeah.
I mean, from what I've heard from scientists who have talked about encounters with ETs, that there's a lot of interference. I want to
Mhm.
say on that level, which I think is really interesting. But
Very cool.
I know we're coming up on the hour, but I want to talk about this for another 3 hours. But what would you do, like, how do you think? I mean, it's hard to say, like, if you just were like walking down the street and say an extraterrestrial like showed themselves to you.
I think everybody's gonna be
It's
like, I
like
think I have an
I don't know.
idea of it, but I think you wouldn't know until you were in that
I don't think you
moment.
would
I
know.
think you would be a little shocked, and I think you would kind of probably gaslight yourself a little bit and go like, wait, did that really happen? But in the end, I
Yeah,
think I would be excited. But I think it's also more about the energetic, um, like how I felt in the moment. Like what energy was the presence giving off? That would, I think, kind of determine how I felt about it. But I mean, I think I would just be pumped because I've been asking for it for years. And if anybody
I
knows,
know.
if anybody
I
knows
know.
Dr. Stephen Greer, I would say if you're interested in learning more about ETs, I think from a conscious and not just like, ooh, like gobble gobble UFO, blah, 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 like just like what I want to say is
Yeah.
what I would call entertainment flim flam, which believe me, I am absolutely there for you too. Like I love a good conspiracy theory, love the like Mothman stories and Bigfoot shit. Like
Mhm.
into it. But if you want, I think if you want like a really like grounded I would say what we're actually looking at now with UFOs, I would say Dr. Stephen Greer is who I would look to.
Yeah,
And
he's fantastic.
he's the only person I see speaking about this that I like something in my body with. I'm like, he is telling the truth. Like there is such a, and he's an engineer and trauma surgeon who's now a whistleblower and working with Congress to get what I want to say is hidden programs, to reveal what they've been doing. But he has particularly, there's three documentaries he has out, but there's the first two. I think it's called Undisclosed or Disclosure. I think it's Undisclosed, and then Close Encounters of the Fourth Kind or Fifth Kind. Do you remember what
Yeah,
they're called?
no, I don't
But
remember.
one just kind of talks about the history of these things, and I want to say is government relationships around these things, which makes a lot of sense. And then the second one is where he's talking about communicating through meditation and how he's able to bring in these experiences. And it's through the CE5 protocols, which I have been for years trying to get a group together that wants to do the CE5 protocols together on the Kissimmee Prairie. And I've yet to get a group together. So, yeah, I think I would be very happy to answer. That was a very long-winded question of saying, hello, friends, please come do the CE5 protocols with me and let's meet with aliens because I really want to. Okay, thank you. That was my TED Talk.
Yeah.
And you kind of already got to experience how you would
Yeah, I
react.
don't I think and it's so funny because there's so many people. I think when you start talking about ETs, you'd be really surprised at how many people who've had experiences.
Yes.
It's mind-blowing. I remember I was getting a massage and I was just talking, and then the person that was giving me a massage told me the craziest ET story about her literally like in her car, and then she was like several then just her mind just went blank, and then she was in her car was in a completely different spot,
The
like
hell?
stuff like that. I mean, it's wild when you start opening up this discussion about ETs.
Mm-mm.
But I feel like, my experience and, from what I've heard is, it's very calming. Even Bashar said it's like you get a little nervous. Like I think for me, even I just remember when I saw the light beings, like, like getting nervous, but then there was something that just put a calm over me. And then I
Hmm.
just felt like, I was just listening, and it was telepathic. And that was
Yeah.
the telepathic communication.
And that
But
calming
it
force
was
is
very,
a
very calming
common.
for us.
Well, the calming force is a common thread through a lot of UFO accounts as well.
Yeah.
Encounters is like, I'm scared, but there was something that calmed me down, like
Yeah.
right
Like
away. Yeah.
it's okay.
And
It's
I think
okay.
maybe part of that nervousness and like what I want to say is it's probably just a higher frequency than we're used to being around.
Yeah.
So it's probably just a
Yeah.
little unnerving because it would feel very dissonant from what we're used to. But then also just like again, I think the biggest challenge we're going to face is like the paradigm shift of because like I feel like it's like everything in me believes we're not alone and my physical life has not reflected that yet.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And like, and even the experiences I've had, like you've had like something that was a physical experience. Like I haven't had a physical, it's all been in dream time, right?
Yeah.
Or where feel like I'm being downloaded something. And like I'll literally feel this, me and my friend that at work that were talking about this, like I feel this really buzzy energy all around me. It's so high vibe. Like it literally is like buzzing in the space around us
Yeah.
like to the point that you can barely sit still. Like you're like, holy shit. Like, and you feel it fill the room as we're talking about these things. But, but I don't, so that's like the most physical, tangible thing I can think of. But to actually see, I think it's just going to be kind of a mind fuck to wrap your brain around having to process like, oh, this is now a physical reality because there's something in us that goes like, I know it, but like once I touch it, now it's a totally different ball game. Or like once I am with it physically. So I think that
Yeah.
fear is also just our nervous system processing a major paradigm shift.
And I wonder too, because wait, well, gosh, we could talk about this forever, because I know that because they're able to do like a lot of energetic manipulation, like I don't doubt that there's like walk-ins, into like maybe another human being, even if it's just a minute to communicate in
Hmm.
a message. Because there's been times where like I've encountered people and I was just like I felt like there's someone had stepped into their consciousness,
Yeah.
like or something took over their consciousness to communicate a message.
Yeah.
I don't know whether you've ever encountered that, but like it's like it didn't feel like their normal thing that they would say to you. And
Hmm.
then, I guess in my level of awareness, like I'm just like, did someone just step in and like talk through her or give her little birdie in her ear or you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it's just really interesting. I mean, I feel like
Well,
we
and
could
that's,
probably,
and I just want to say that's where I would go. Like, so is it really existing on a different plane than our spirit guides and our angels and our passed on loved ones? Because, like, I know you've also told me you've seen walk-ins with angels or you've seen walk-ins
yeah,
with, so like,
yeah.
that's why I'm like, I think there's all these different dimensions. And by dimensions, I just mean different frequency densities that
Oh,
your
for
consciousness,
sure.
the higher evolved consciousness can exist on, and that I would argue we are existing on, but we're I want to say like the piece of us that is incarnate is locked into this framework. But I think there's other piece of us that are existing in other dimensions. That's where I think the higher self is, but it's like all
Yeah.
in one dimension. So they're not separate. They're like all layered in the same space. So that's where I would say, like, I don't know that passed on loved ones, spirit guides, angels, or ETs are actually existing in different forms as much as there may be different variations of frequency and density they have access to. But that's what I'm saying is I
That's
think
so
they
true.
always they
Yeah.
all have access
Or that
that
resonates with me.
to
Yeah.
that connective fiber web of consciousness that everything in existence is connected to. So
Yeah.
that's where I would say like that's where I'm like I feel like it came through the same channel, which I think it can come through different feelings for sure. Like it will feel maybe different because again, a different pinpoint on that map. Because what I would say is like our loved ones and like spirit guides, like we're familiar with those frequencies. So when they come in, they may not feel foreign to us versus if an ET frequency came in on that same channel, it might be like, whoa, you know what I mean? Like it might
Yeah.
feel very different, even if it's coming from the same channel,
Hmm.
but the frequency is different because that's their unique signature in a way.
Yeah, no, that makes sense.
I don't
It's
know.
just like it's like calling a phone number. Everybody has like their own dial in.
Their own dial-in, yeah. And I mean, and I could go on this forever, but like literally
I know.
like literally like this like my nose has a different frequency than my left butt cheek. You know what I mean? Like that's how like
Hmm.
it just gets so like you can get so minute. And I think that's what consciousness is in the awakening of consciousness, your perception of those frequencies expands more
Yeah.
and more and more and more, which is why I'm like, okay, we're going violet and magenta, and they're like there are infinite frequencies between violet and magenta, and your color scheme, yeah, it's not even close to how how many colors there actually are, you know what I mean, like
Well,
literally
it makes
infinite.
it makes sense too, because when people cross over, and they talk about, I want to say a lot of NDEs who
Hmm.
talk about who have like crossed over and come back, they're like the colors. They always talk about the
The
colors and how they're
colors.
not the same as they are here. So that would make sense that even if just as like a perspective of that range of just seeing things very differently on a different level of consciousness and,
Yeah,
and how they are. But anyway, on that note,
I know we got to wrap it up,
we got to wrap it up.
but
So
dang,
that, oh my gosh, I feel like literally we could talk about this for another hour. It's
I don't
like
even
so
feel like we
cool.
covered everything, my God.
I know we did it.
It's
That's
not
okay.
possible. It's not possible.
Aliens part two.
And, I'm just going to put it out there. If there's any ETs that would like to grant us an interview, you could be the first guest on the Wired for Woo podcast.
I know, right? That
Come
would be
on
so fun.
in.
That would be so fun. So we wanted to step into our titty bits. I know we don't have a little jingle, but
Titty bits.
titty bits
Titty,
and
titty, titty.
titty
Bits, bits, bits.
bits.
Okay. Yeah, today for Titty Bits, we're talking numerology.
Woohoo, my favorite subject.
Tell us what
For
numerology
for
is,
for a
Angelique.
girl who hates math.
Oh,
Um,
luckily
You
it's
know, I
simple
love
math.
numerology. I love numerology because of angel numbers. That's that kind of what started it all. In
Mm,
seeing in our last episode, we were talking about signs and synchronicities, and numbers are a really big thing. Numerology is, I don't have the scientific definition of it, but I would say it's a universal language. Numbers are universal,
mm,
and that's the best way I can describe it for me. There's probably much deeper look behind it, but I feel like everything can be looked in some form of sequence on a universal level, astrologically, etc.
hmm.
In numerology, you work from 1 to 9 and then back to zero. I think zero doesn't really equate to anything,
Yeah,
really.
you just kind of go back to because a
Yeah.
10 is a 1. So it's just 1
Yeah,
through 9.
exactly.
But I
Yeah, it's
have
one
heard
through
in some
nine.
systems, depending on like, so like 11 could be reduced to 2. So basically, you just like add everything together and then just keep simplifying it and consolidating it until you get a single digit. But I've heard like 11 and 22. And also, I think it was 16, that there's certain numbers that like you can keep consolidating them. So, like, so 11 could be 2, but that's also a master number that has
Hmm.
its own meaning as well. So like 22, 33, those double digits, which is part
Yeah.
of why they correlate to angel numbers. But yeah, it's like 1 through 9 and then some people attribute um meaning to math, what would be considered a master number. And I had a numerologist one time tell me 16 was like karmic. It was a karma number
Yeah.
or something, which I don't know all of that either. But
Yeah. So everybody has like, I guess the best way, without getting too deep in a short period of time, you could figure out your life path number by taking your birthday. Like, whether say it's 2/15/1963. So you would take all those numbers together and reduce it down to a 1 through a 9. And then
mhm,
you would just research, what that is. Like, I think you and I are both ones, right? We're
yeah,
both life path ones.
yeah,
So that's just very, it's like leadership energy
yeah.
through and through.
Yeah. It's like
But,
trailblazing leadership,
hmm
initiative,
hmm
kind of like it's a standalone energy. Yeah.
yeah. And the interesting thing with life path numbers, and my understanding too, is you could come in like not wanting to be in the role of leader. You could be, I want to say, your flip side of the coin. But I think part of the lessons there are like once you start stepping more into, you could resist, like I don't want to do it, I want, but
Mm.
the thing is like once you start stepping into that, I think then, I guess it's one of those things, you just become more in alignment
Mm,
to your soul's path. Or you're just, I mean, I think you're still in alignment even if you're on the flip side of it, but I feel like
yeah.
it's a matter of ease in the and how things unfold.
It's kind of like the parts of you that you're meant to develop and lean into
Mm-hmm.
in
Exactly.
a way.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And
And
today's a
then,
big one.
oh,
Today,
yeah.
yeah, today's 999, so it's September. We're filming or we're recording on. We're not. We're doing both. On September 9th, and 2025 is a 9, so it's 999. So it's basically, I want to say it's a slingshot of power from the universe. And
Mm,
nines are endings,
yeah.
completions of a cycle. You're at the end of a cycle. So
Mhm.
it's a lot of letting go of things that no longer serve you. And it's all about, just kind of, I think it's more of the evaluation, right? It's kind of reflection, evaluation,
Yeah.
tying loose ends,
I would definitely say
or
that.
things coming to an ending that just
Yeah.
weren't in alignment, things like that. So
I always see nines as like yeah, like the actual letting go.
yeah,
Like it's that we're actually cutting cords, we're actually letting go, we're actually releasing. It's like it's that final cut of a cycle or something.
yeah. And
Yeah.
I always love, I forget which tarot card. It's one of the nines. It's probably nine of cups. But there's a woman standing in a field at a fence that's like kind of like part of it she could easily step over.
Oh, Nine of
And it
Pentacles.
is it Nine of Pentacles?
Probably. I
It
mean,
could
well,
be
you
it.
have a different deck though
I have
than
a different deck.
you're
It's so
referencing
funny.
artwork I haven't
I
seen.
know I'm such a visual girl. So like whenever I see this, it's probably Nine of Pentacles. You're probably right. But it's still that completion cycle of like just you're ready to take your next step as
Yeah.
well
Yeah.
into the unknown. And I feel like that's kind of where today's manifestation and things like that, where they say the energy, whenever you get the cycle of multiple numbers on a date, like everyone goes crazy on November 11th, you know?
Oh yeah. 1111 portal.
I
Yeah.
know it's the
It is
11/11 portal.
crazy.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
So anytime we have those, it's just, I want to say the energy, there is something there where if you're a manifesting person or you're a person who loves to set intentions, like that's the day that you would be really setting those out. Like I heard
Yeah.
someone this morning saying, write 9 things down that you want to let go or 9 things that you want to manifest and kind of, just think through those things. And I think, in that energy, because it is probably, I want to say the vibration is just, I want to say it's amplified. That's a
Hmm.
good word for it. But yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I agree with you. And I also think it's just interesting because, like, I think across so many different spiritual systems, numerology plays a role. So, like,
Hmm.
numerology itself is a system. You see numerology used in tarot for sure. Every number on the cards relates to the energy of those numbers.
Yes.
We see it with angel numbers. We see it like it's a very, like, what I'm gonna say is we all know numbers are significant, and numerology kind of just gives us the system for kind of understanding it. And I love we did this earlier, but one of my favorite uses for numerology is actually the personal year because it
Oh my
really does,
gosh.
like when you look
Yeah.
back at like the years that like you, what I want to say is that certain things have
Your
happened.
cycles.
There
Yeah.
are, you live in a cycle of nine. Like
Hmm.
you are cycling through like the same things, which is what, or even like one of the things I found really interesting was even like your address or your house. So like the house it was the first house I bought right after a divorce, which again was a major ending, and then I sold it, so which was another major ending. It was a 10-1 house. Like it added up to 1 and 10. So 10, I still take the 10 as like completion still, but then it's like 1. So like that house granted me new beginnings in so many different ways. So it was like a starting over house. And then the apartment I'm in now is also a 1
Yeah.
address wise. So it's like another, and it was another fresh start. So I even like to kind of look at like
I
addresses.
love that. I
Whereas
love
like my
that.
childhood home was a 16, which means there was a lot of karmic lessons specifically around betrayal, which when I remember reading that and being like, wow, like it was so on brand. So like I think it's interesting how it can apply to addresses and then your personal years. You definitely, like, during my 5 year was the year I moved, and that's associated with movement and change. Sixes, you're about to go into your 6 year, right? In
I'm in my 5 year
October.
now. Yeah. Um, yeah. Well, 2025 is my 5 year, my
Right,
year at
but it
five.
switches over at your birthday, and your birthday's coming up
Oh, November. Well, it's the end of the year almost.
November. Oh, okay.
The end of
But
November.
still,
So I have time.
September.
I got
You got
time.
like a
I got
month left in
time.
you've got a month left in
A
your
month
five
and a
year.
half, 2 months. Well, it's closer to
Yeah.
2 months.
But
But
you also
but
moved in
yeah,
your 5 year.
I moved in my 5 year, which fives are all about transformation, change, but also travel. Fives are big travel years. So I moved this year. But the interesting thing is my house number is 5 now.
Oh, interesting.
It's literally a 5. There's no like reducing down. But my Charleston address was 602, so it was an 8. It was an 8. So I always look at
Mm,
8 as, abundance.
yeah.
In many ways, that apartment was an abundance for me.
Hmm.
Um, but yeah, I'm definitely in the fives for now.
Yeah.
Fives love to be fives are, I think when I looked through like all my numerology charts, like I don't know whether it was karmic or there's so many different layers of your numerology chart, but I did have a lot of transformation and change and travel. I was definitely not a person to sit still. And I think you and I were
Hmm.
talking about before, like our when we were doing soul's purpose, like where we lived, and our soul purpose, or people who lived in the same house,
Yeah.
forever or whatever. Like I feel like my fives in my numerology chart definitely aligns with the amount of movement that I've done over the years, for
Yeah.
sure.
Yeah, for sure. I
There's a
think it's
lot
so cool.
there. I mean, I think it's just as in depth as an astrological chart, and I feel
Hmm.
like they really play hand in hand. I wish I knew more about astrology, but like it hurts my head a little bit. It feels like math. And it's funny, numerology feels easier to me and it's numbers, but astrology, like with all the houses, I'm sure there's an easy way to break it all down, but
No, astrology is just
it
complicated and
feels very
complex, and there's
complicated, very
always more
complicated.
layers. So,
But yeah,
and whereas numerology is like a number that typically means something, and just figuring out how to find the number for the thing. So, if for anyone who's
yeah.
interested in looking deeper into their numerology, there's numerology readers you can go see that can help you figure that out. Or ChatGPT is a great resource for this as well. Just give it your birth date, and
Oh my
it'll give you
gosh.
all the information. But because you have your life path number, you have your destiny number, you have your what are the other ones?
Karmic,
Your karmic
your
numbers, your
karmic.
and they tell you all sorts of different things about like your energies around certain areas of your life.
You can
Um,
also do people in that you have relationships with. And what your relationship in between your numerology numbers, because I did that with Patrick and I, because he's a 9 and I'm a
mm,
1, which is like so interesting.
interesting.
I know, but it's quite lovely. It
I was gonna
really,
say that
it's
probably would work
yeah,
really well.
yeah. And my daughter's
Yeah,
a 9 too, so
interesting.
humanitarians. They're humanitarians.
Oh, that's right, they are.
They're lovers of the world.
Yeah,
Nines are humanitarian caregivers, just, that kind of energy vibe.
yeah,
But um
yeah.
yeah, they're usually the teachers, the nurses, the coaches, yeah,
The nurturers,
the
yeah.
nurturers.
hmm That's really cool.
Yep, yep. I
Yep.
know. All
Well,
right.
I think that's about time to wrap it.
I know. Good one. Good one. Good one.
Woo! Wow, guys, we really took a journey here.
I know. Send your alien comments in. We'd love to hear them. If you've had
Yeah.
any experiences, and we'd love to talk about it. If you have any questions or whatever, we can do a little Q&A session on another session, and that would be really great.
Yeah, or just send us your own contact stories and we'll read them
Ooh,
on the next podcast.
I
That would
would
be so
love
fun.
that. So
Yeah,
juicy.
so juicy. If we have enough of them,
Yeah.
we'll make a part two of just this,
Oh,
reading your
100%.
experiences and maybe chatting about them a little bit. So, yeah, that would be super fun.
Or invite you on if it's
Or invite you on. Well, I was saying if we got like a bunch of them, if we got a
yeah,
few, then we would just read them. But yeah, if we get a really good, if you send us a really juicy story, we might have you on. We'll do a
that's
part
true.
two. Come on,
Sounds
baby.
like I know.
All right. All right. Thanks everybody for joining us for another
Thanks,
episode of Wired for
everyone.
Woo. And we'll catch you on the next one.
Catch you on the next one. Take care.